Por que será que essa gringa australiana se interessou em aprender português? Como assim que ela mudou para o Brasil? Ela largou tudo e foi para o Brasil. Today, I'm going to tell you my story in English for you to practice your listening. But before I tell you my story, I want to invite you to a masterclass that I'm running. Se chama Você fala português? Por que o seu inglês às vezes não soa natural para os australianos? It's for you if you feel like you already speak English, but sometimes it doesn't sound natural and you're ready to take your English to the next level. The link will be in the description of the episode, so I hope to see you there. Let's go. My story. The first time that I met Brazilians, I already knew that there was something special here. The first time I was in France. I did an exchange program to France when I was in school, and there was this meeting of exchange students, and everybody had to show something from their country. And this group of 4 Brazilian girls stood on the stage and did a dance to Aí Se Eu Te Pego. And I remember looking at them and thinking, oh my God, they're so cool, they're so free, they're so connected to each other. And I just knew then that there was something about Brazil that was different and something that I wanted to learn from Brazilians. And I knew I wanted to visit Brazil. But it wasn't for about 13 years later that I actually finally went to Brazil. And why? Why did I go to Brazil? I'm going to tell you, I'm going to go a little bit backwards in my story. My family lives in a town in the south of Australia called Bendigo. Bendigo is about 2 hours north of Melbourne. And it's like a mid-sized town for Australia. It's got about 100,000 people. And I did high school here. I did university here. During COVID, I felt something change in me where I just realized that I'd been living the same life every day in the same town for years, and I started to feel unsatisfied with this life. And I felt like I was watching movies on my phone and looking at other people live their life, and I wasn't one of them. I was just watching people live their life, and I wasn't doing it. So it was really hard, but I made the decision to leave my hometown, to buy an old van and move to the Australian desert. And this is where my story started. Yeah, I packed up everything into this van and left for a town called Alice Springs in the middle of Australia. I worked here as a hiking guide and Guia das Trilhas. This is where I really started to feel like I was living my life. When I was here in this phase, there was one day after work that I went to this little waterhole to go for a swim with some friends. In Alice Springs, it rains sometimes really heavy and the water flows in the river, but then it dries up really quickly. So when there's water, everyone gets excited and goes to the waterhole. So I went to this waterhole, but there wasn't much water left. It had been maybe a week or 2 since it had rained, and so there was not very much water, and the water was gross. Gross, if you don't know this word, gross e nojento. The water was gross, like slimy, moleque, ugh. And anyway, so I went there to meet some friends, and I got out of my van, and I saw in the distance there was a man with no shirt on, with a 6-pack of abs. And I just thought, oh, who is this? So I stood up really straight and walked past him the best I could. And he said, hi. And I said, hi. And then I kept walking. I was like, oh, he said hello to me. Oh. And then I went to meet my friends, tried to go in the water, but didn't like the water because it was too gross. After an hour, I went back to my car and he was still there. But this time he was cooking next to his car, cooking out the back of his car. And he said to me, "How's the water?" And I said, "A bit gross." And he said, "Ah." And then he said, "Do you want some dinner?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, I'd love some dinner." So he got out these 2 little camping chairs from his car, and we ate some fish and rice and canned beetroot that he was cooking out of his car. And it turns out he was Brazilian. So we got to talking, and he told me that he was traveling Australia in his car. He had this dream to do a big lap of Australia. He'd already done the East Coast, and now he was right in the middle of Australia, and he wanted to complete the lap and do the whole West Coast of Australia. So I said, "Cool." And he said he's been in this place with this waterhole for a little while because he was using the water to have a shower, because he's been living in his car and he was using this to have a shower. And I was like, "You're using that water to have a shower? I have a house. If you want, you're very welcome to come and use my shower and use my kitchen and stuff for a while." And he said, "Okay." So he came to my house and he never left. And yeah, we fell in love. And yeah, that was I fell very, very much in love with this man. So he ended up staying in Alice Springs with me for maybe about 6 months. Then he said to me actually the second day that we met, "Do you want to come to Brazil? There's this amazing party in Brazil called Universo Paralelo. It's the best party of your life. You should come. You can stay with my family." And I said, "Okay, I want to come." And so that was always our plan. Our plan, before we'd even kissed, I was going to go visit him and his family in Brazil. So then what happened is we were together for about a year, and he started to really want to go home, to go back to his family. So he convinced me to quit my job in Alice Springs. I was working at a camel farm with like the animal camels, doing camel rides for tourists in the desert, and which I loved. But yes, he said, finish this big lap of Australia with me. And I said, okay. So I quit my job and we travelled the whole West Coast back to my hometown of Bendigo, where he was going to leave and go home. But what he wanted to do made me very nervous. He didn't want to tell his family that he was coming home. He wanted it to be a surprise for his family. This meant that it wasn't just a surprise that he was going to go back to Brazil. It was also a surprise that he was bringing me. In my mind, I was like, his family doesn't know. He's going to arrive in Brazil and tell them, hi, my girlfriend's going to come live in Brazil with us. And they would have no way of knowing, no preparation time. And they didn't speak English. I didn't speak Portuguese. So I started to feel a little bit nervous about this. So I had 2 weeks. He was going to fly home first and I was going to fly 2 weeks later. So I had 2 weeks after we were traveling to try to learn Portuguese as much as I could. And I had a very strong motive. I really wanted his family to like me, and I knew how important they were to him. So I wanted to build a good relationship with them, and I wanted to know that it was okay that I was living there. And yeah, I wanted to be part of it. So I studied as hard as I could for about 2 weeks before going to Brazil. I was very nervous, but I got on a plane and I went to Brazil. And as soon as I got to Brazil, his mum just gave me a big hug and drove me home from the airport, about 2 hours from the São Paulo airport to Guarapiranga suburb. I couldn't really talk to them, but I tried my best. And then I remember arriving to their house, and his mum again grabbed my hands and said, "Seja muito bem-vindo aqui. Essa casa é sua casa. Quero que você se sente muito bem aqui." And even though I didn't understand all the words she said, I felt from her heart that I was truly welcome there. And it almost makes me emotional to think about how much they supported me and looked after me and brought me into their family. Because of them, that I stayed so long in Brazil, that I had such a beautiful experience. It's because of them that I have everything. I have my career now. I teach Brazilians English. And for me, this is a little bit the essence of what I received in Brazil, was such a welcome and such care. And this is what I want to give Brazilians that are in Australia now, because I know how hard it can be to move to a different country, to not understand, to not speak the language. And it's because of the love and the care that they gave me that I've had such a great experience. So now I have this mission to help Brazilians in Australia to feel welcome, to feel good, to learn English. And yes, that's what I'm doing here. So next episode, I'm going to tell you all about how exactly I learned Portuguese. This episode was the background. Next episode, why I'm going to learn Portuguese. And then I will be telling a bit about what I thought of Brazil, things that I loved and the things that I found more difficult. Mas antes que vocês vão embora, no final de cada episódio eu decidi que eu vou contar o mico do inglês. O mico dessa semana é que eu tive uma aluna que foi querendo comprar alho no supermercado sem casca. Ela foi pedir para alguém: "Do you have garlic with no skin? Garlic, no skin?" And the man looked at her very confused. "Without skin, sem pele? What?" And she saw that he wasn't understanding. So she goes, "Naked, naked, naked." Naked, se você não sabe, significa sem roupas, sem roupas, sem roupas. Então, gente, esse é o meu mico da semana. Então, se você quer perguntar para alguém alho sem casca, it's peeled garlic. O casca é peel. De descascar é to peel. So, peeled garlic. Do you have peeled garlic? Ei, então, se você tem um mico do inglês para me contar, me manda mensagem lá na Insta, Paporoo English. Me manda mensagem lá. E se você tem um bom mico, talvez eu vou contar a história do seu mico aqui no podcast para ajudar outras pessoas com inglês. E sim, espero que você gostou do episódio. E não esquece do Masterclass. Eu vou fazer o meu melhor. O Masterclass te ensina muitas coisas úteis para melhorar o seu inglês aqui. Tchau!